No contact can feel like stepping into the unknown. You wonder if they're thinking about you, if they're missing you, if they're even feeling the same kind of pain you are. But here's the truth. Silence isn't always what it seems. Just because they aren't reaching out doesn't mean they aren't struggling. In fact, there's one key sign, a powerful, undeniable indicator that your ex is actually hurting during no contact. And once you recognize it, everything will change. You see, people don't always express pain the way we expect them to. Some lash out, some isolate, and others pretend like nothing is wrong at all. But deep down, emotions don't just vanish. As Sigmund Freud once said, unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. Your ex might be acting cool, detached, even happy on the surface. But trust me, if you know what to look for, the cracks will start to show. Many people assume that if their ex isn't texting, calling, or showing visible distress, they must be perfectly fine. But what if I told you that silence can be a mask, a defense mechanism? Often the person who acts the most unaffected is the one who is struggling the most. Their pride, their ego, their fear of vulnerability, it all keeps them from admitting that no contact is getting to them. Think about it. If they truly didn't care, would they be going out of their way to prove how much fun they're having? Would they be suddenly more active on social media, posting things they never cared about before? Would they be subtly trying to remind you they exist without actually reaching out? These behaviors aren't random, they're calculated. They're signs of discomfort, of emotional resistance, of someone who is feeling the void that your absence has left. The legendary Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "People are disturbed not by things, but by the view they take of them." Your ex's biggest struggle isn't your absence, it's what your absence represents. It's the realization that they no longer have access to you, that you're not at their emotional disposal anymore. And when that reality starts to sink in, it stings. But here's the kicker. The moment they start showing this key sign, it means they are internally battling the effects of no contact. It means your silence is speaking louder than any words ever could. It means you've shifted the dynamic, and now they are the ones wrestling with uncertainty. They might not admit it, but trust me, when you recognize this sign, you'll know you're in their head. And here's why this matters. Understanding this one crucial sign can change the way you view no contact entirely. Instead of doubting yourself, wondering if it's working or if they even care, you'll have clarity. You'll see the psychological shift happening in real time, and you'll realize just how much power you hold in this situation. So, if you've ever questioned whether your ex is actually hurting, if no contact is really affecting them, this is the video you need to watch until the end. Because today, we're breaking it all down, piece by piece, so that you'll never second-guess yourself again. Sign number 1. They suddenly become more active on social media. One of the clearest signs that your ex is actually hurting during no contact is a sudden spike in their social media activity. If they barely posted before, but now they're flooding their stories, updating their statuses, or sharing happy moments, don't be fooled. It's not just a coincidence. You see, when people are genuinely content and moving on, they don't feel the need to broadcast it. But when someone is struggling with no contact, they often try to prove to themselves and to you that they're doing just fine. It's a form of emotional self-defense. They don't want to reach out directly, but they still want to be noticed. Think about it. Why would someone who claims to be unaffected suddenly start posting more selfies, nights out, or gym sessions? Why would they go out of their way to make their life look better now that you're gone? The answer is simple. Because they want you to see it. They want to plant a seed of doubt in your mind, to make you wonder if you made a mistake, to trigger a reaction from you. As the great philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "He who is contented is rich." Truly happy people don't seek external validation. But when someone is hurting and unsure of themselves, they crave attention, even if it's indirect. That's why an ex who suddenly becomes a social media star is often someone who is feeling the sting of your absence. And here's the kicker. They're watching your reaction just as much as they hope you're watching theirs. They might check to see if you've viewed their stories, or post something suspiciously aimed at your past relationship. Maybe a song lyric about heartbreak, a cryptic quote about moving on, or even something meant to make you jealous. But make no mistake, if they didn't care, they wouldn't be trying this hard. So, if you notice your ex suddenly acting like an influencer when they were never that into social media before, pay attention. It's not about the pictures, the status updates, or the captions. It's about why they're doing it. Their silence may be saying one thing, but their online behavior is telling the truth. They feel your absence, and it's getting to them. Sign number 2. They're reaching out indirectly through mutual friends or random messages. One of the biggest signs that your ex is actually hurting during no contact is when they start reaching out to you indirectly, through mutual friends, acquaintances, or even in seemingly random ways. You might not hear from them directly, but suddenly a mutual friend mentions that your ex was just asking how you've been. Or maybe someone close to them slips in a casual remark like, "I ran into your ex the other day and they seemed curious about what you've been up to." This isn't just small talk. It's a calculated way for them to check in on you without breaking no contact themselves. Why do they do this? Because they're hurting, but their pride won't let them come to you directly. Instead, they test the waters, trying to gauge if you've moved on or if you're still thinking about them. As Napoleon Bonaparte once said, "Never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake." Your ex may have thought no contact would be easy, but now they're realizing it's not, and they're looking for ways to regain control without making themselves too vulnerable. Sometimes their indirect outreach isn't even through people, it's through random out-of-nowhere messages. Maybe they send you a text that seems completely unrelated, like, "Hey, do you still have my hoodie? Do you know the name of that restaurant we went to? I just saw something that reminded me of you." These messages are not about the hoodie. They're not about the restaurant. They are a way for your ex to break the silence without admitting they miss you. They want to see if you'll respond, if you're still emotionally available to them, if they still have a place in your life. But here's the key. If your ex is truly over you, they wouldn't need these little excuses to reach out. When someone is happy and healed, they move forward with clarity. When they're hurting, they look for loopholes to reconnect, without fully committing to reconciliation. So if you notice your ex suddenly getting curious about your life through mutual friends, or sending you random, unnecessary messages, take it as a sign. No contact is working. They are feeling your absence, and they don't know how to handle it. Sign number 3. They start posting cryptic or emotional content. Another major sign that your ex is actually hurting during no contact. They start posting cryptic, emotional, or overly philosophical content that seems way too specific to be random. You're scrolling through social media and suddenly you see your ex sharing deep quotes about love, heartbreak, or new beginnings. Maybe they post lyrics from a sad song, something like, "Some people never change, they just find new ways to lie." Funny how people say they care, but disappear when you need them most. If you love something, let it go. If it comes back, it was meant to be. Let's be real. This isn't just for their followers. It's for you. It's their way of expressing emotions without actually reaching out. Because deep down, they're hoping you'll see it and start wondering if it's about you. The great psychologist Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." What does that mean here? It means your ex may not even fully realize why they're doing this. Their emotions are surfacing, and instead of facing them directly, they're channeling them into vague, indirect messages. And here's the kicker. If someone was truly happy and moving on, they wouldn't feel the need to post like this. They wouldn't need to send out hidden signals or play emotional chess. When you're at peace, you don't need to prove it to the world. So if you see your ex suddenly sharing deep, moody, or philosophical posts about life and relationships, especially if they never used to do this, take it as a sign. They're hurting, they're thinking about you, and no contact is getting to them more than they'd ever admit. Sign number 4. They start overcompensating, acting happier than ever. One of the biggest signs that your ex is actually hurting during no contact is when they suddenly start acting like they're having the time of their life. You know the type. Suddenly they're always out with friends, going to new places, partying more than usual, or posting non-stop about how amazing their life is now. It's almost as if they're trying to prove something. But here's the truth. When someone is genuinely happy, they don't need to convince the world. As the legendary Maya Angelou once said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." But in this case, what they're showing isn't who they really are. It's who they want you to think they are. This kind of behavior is classic overcompensation. They want you to see how much fun they're having, how great they're doing without you, how free they feel. But deep down, if they were truly at peace, they wouldn't need to put on a show. Think about it. If they never used to go out much but are now suddenly clubbing every weekend, or if they start posting exaggerated happiness that feels out of character, it's not just a coincidence. It's a defense mechanism. They're trying to fill the void your absence left, distracting themselves from the emotions they don't want to face. And here's the real giveaway. If you don't react, they double down. If their first attempt doesn't get your attention, they go even harder. More parties, more fun, more staged photos. But the harder they try, the more obvious it becomes. They're not over you, they're hurting. So, if your ex suddenly becomes a social butterfly, acting like life has never been better, don't be fooled. More often than not, it's just a mask for what they don't want to admit. No contact is affecting them more than they ever expected. Sign number 5. They get angry or passive-aggressive toward you. If your ex suddenly starts showing signs of anger, irritation, or passive-aggressive behavior, it's a major indicator that no contact is getting to them, and they don't know how to handle it. You might notice little jabs, subtle digs, or even full-blown hostility, either directly or indirectly. Maybe they suddenly unfollow or block you, only to unblock you later. Maybe they make snide remarks through mutual friends, saying things like, "Guess they moved on fast. I always knew they were selfish. I hope they find what they're looking for." Or maybe they post things that seem a little too pointed, like, "Some people don't know how to appreciate what they have until it's gone." Funny how people act like they're fine when they're not. "I don't have time for fake people anymore." Sounds familiar? That's because this behavior isn't about indifference. It's about pain. As Aristotle once said, anybody can become angry. That is easy. But to be angry with the right person and to the right degree and at the right time, that is not within everybody's power. When someone is truly over a breakup, they don't waste energy being bitter. But when they're hurting, they lash out. And anger is often a sign of unresolved emotions, whether they realize it or not. This passive-aggressive behavior is a way for them to reclaim control. They want to get a reaction out of you. They want you to feel guilty, to second-guess yourself, or to break no contact first. Because deep down they miss you, but their ego won't let them admit it. So if your ex suddenly goes from silence to throwing shade, acting distant, or even trying to make you jealous, take it as confirmation. They're not indifferent. They're struggling. No contact is working, and they feel it. Sign number 6. They try to accidentally bump into you. One of the clearest signs that your ex is actually hurting during no contact is when they suddenly start showing up in places you frequently go, as if by coincidence. You stop by your favorite coffee shop, and guess who just happens to be there? You go to the gym at your usual time, and suddenly they're working out right next to you. A mutual friend invites you to a party, and, surprise, your ex just happened to show up too. Now, let's be real. Most of the time, this is not a coincidence. If they never used to go to these places before, but now they're magically appearing in your world, it's because they want to be seen. They're hoping that by being physically present, they'll trigger some kind of reaction from you. As the great psychologist Carl Jung once said, there is no such thing as coincidence, only the illusion of coincidence. Your ex might act surprised to see you, but deep down, they've likely planned it. Why do they do this? Because no contact is getting to them. They don't want to reach out directly, maybe out of pride, fear, or uncertainty, but they also don't want to completely disappear from your life. So, they create opportunities to run into you, hoping that the universe, or fate, or chance, will do what they're too afraid to do themselves. And here's where it gets interesting. If you don't react, they'll do it again. They'll keep trying to put themselves in your path until they get some kind of response. Because their biggest fear is that you've truly moved on. So if your ex suddenly seems to be everywhere you go, don't ignore the sign. They're feeling your absence, and they're trying, consciously or unconsciously, to break no contact without actually saying it outright. The truth about no contact and your ex's pain. By now, you've seen the signs, the cryptic posts, the sudden social media glow-up, the indirect messages, the anger, and even the accidental run-ins. These aren't random behaviors. These are signals that your ex is struggling with no contact far more than they'd ever admit. But here's the key. What you do next determines everything. You see, a lot of people panic when they notice their ex hurting. They take it as a sign to reach out, to check in, or to break no contact too soon. But that's exactly what your ex subconsciously wants. To pull you back in before they've fully processed what losing you really means. As the legendary Sun Tzu once said in The Art of War, the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself. And no, your ex isn't your enemy, but the principle is the same. The more they show their emotional struggle, the more power you actually have in this situation. If your goal is to rebuild something stronger, the worst thing you can do is break no contact just because they're showing signs of distress. Instead, stay patient. Let them fully feel your absence. Let them sit with the reality that you are not just an option they can return to whenever they want. Only then will they truly realize what they've lost. And if you're serious about taking back your power in this situation, here's what I want you to do. Drop a comment below and write, "I choose my peace." Because at the end of the day, no contact isn't about making your ex suffer. It's about making sure you heal, grow, and step into the best version of yourself. And if you want more in-depth guidance on how to navigate breakups, relationships, and self-growth, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because trust me, what's coming next will completely shift your perspective on love and attraction. This has been Ace Wisdom, and I'll see you in the next video.